Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our round 2 live stream for the Black Desert Championship. Going to break down what to expect from the course tomorrow, as well as how to approach your DFS lineups and prop slips for Friday to hopefully have yourself a day. But first off, just want to welcome you guys on in, whether you're part of the replay crew already down there in the live chat. Hopefully you guys are having a fantastic Thursday. We've got Thursday night football finishing up, so I've got it over there on the side, keeping a little bit of a side eye on that. Hopefully that went well for everyone out there and ready to get after it out there for Friday. See, we already got Joseph down there, Francis, Antonio, a bunch of tryhards out here on a Thursday night, and let's get right on after it out there for tomorrow. Going to start it off with our plug out here for the live stream, which of course are our friends over there at the Ship It Nation, the presenting sponsor of this live stream and a great source for all your needs on DFS, whether it's with golf DFS, a variety of different sports that you see on the screen there. They've got NFL projections, NASCAR, UFC, you name it, NBA, NHL when that comes around as well. A great all-encompassing kind of site that can cover you from a variety of different sports. So, if you're like myself, you like to dabble in a few other sports. I personally like to look at some of the UFC stuff over there on the Ship It Nation. Make sure to check them out. Use the code Luke10 for a discount off any membership. But that's it for the plug at the beginning of the stream. But let's go ahead, hop on into what we're going to expect out there for Friday, which if we take a look at what we saw today is really going to help us in our exposure. I mentioned the fact that the winds are going to kick up in the afternoon most days. In round 1, it played to over a 1.3 shot advantage. So if you took that advice, went out there, played some round 1 showdown lineups, you probably feel pretty good about your ROI. And we're just going to go out there and run that back for round 2. It looks like a pretty similar forecast. And though I did hope that the AM PM wave would get the better side of the draw, it looks like it's probably going to be 50-50. So if you went out there, you stacked one wave or the other, I don't think it's going to kill you at the end of the day, but I don't expect it to be a massive advantage over the first 2 rounds. So speaking of, let's take a look at the weather over here for Friday, where you can see right around 2-3 p.m. local time, you're going to see the winds kick up from non-existent to that 14 to 16 mile an hour range. And while they were maybe a little bit more significant than what the forecast calls for tomorrow, it was a whole 1.3 shot advantage. So obviously there's a little bit of play left to go for some of those PM starters. They're going to finish up their last 3 or 4 holes there in the morning. But tomorrow, you're likely going to see at least a shot advantage. So out there in our exposure, you're going to see me only playing AM wave players in my showdown lineups. And of course, for the prop side of things, you're going to want to account for that as well. Because, if you look at the scoring average, right, 2.78 under par for the morning, right, it was nearly a 68 scoring average. Afternoon, a little bit worse than 1.5 under par. So if you're not accounting for this, both in your showdown lineups and over there for props, then you're probably making a little bit of a mistake. So if you want to see the weather thing, I'm probably going to redirect you to this part of the video, but let's go ahead and start to talk some DFS stuff now, which speaking of, was that DK Metcalf? Okay, I need a DK Metcalf catch. So hopefully he can come through for us there. A few props that are coming down to the wire. So definitely going to have to keep an eye on the game to the side. So we've got our projections up here. Do you want to talk through some strategy for tomorrow, which a lot of it's going to be focused around the weather. We're going to want to stack the guys that are in the proper wave. We're also going to want to go out there, try and play game theory where we can. But towards the top end of the board, there aren't that many AM options. So I think that you're going to see a lot of the educated, smart players go out there and play the same kind of options. So just to show you, right, AM, you've got a Keith Mitchell up top, a Patrick Fishburne, Chris Kirk as well, Ben Griffin, and that's it for the guys that are over $9,000. This 8K range has a few options. You've got like a Lucas Glover, for example, Harris English down here at $8,300, but that's it for the guys that are $8,000 plus. All the rest of them are going to be PM wave players, which I don't think it's going to impact ownership that much, right? You're going to see those guys maybe higher owned than they should be in the AM just because there's only so many options. But these PM wave players are all at like -5, -6. All your casuals out there that don't really pay attention to PGA DFS are just going to play the guys that played well round 1. We've seen that for years. It's gone a little bit different as time has gone on. So that's why I say that the AM guys might get a little bit more steam than you would expect, mostly because people are smarter now, right? They know how to go out there, play for their showdown lineups. And honestly, the combinations with those players are also going to be higher owns, because even within that inflated ownership number, the guys that are playing AM lineups are all going to be landing on the same players up top. So I think if you're trying to play the leverage game up there, it's probably a fool's errand. And where you really are going to have to get different is potentially leaving a little bit of salary on the table. I'm not talking anything crazy, right? Maybe like a couple $100 to maybe $500 that you're leaving on the table. And the other way would be to do it and would be to take a lot of low-owned guys down low. So up top, you're going to see that there's some chalk that I'm playing, but a lot of that is just a byproduct of not having a ton of options to go through. By the way, if you have any questions about a specific player, just let me know down in the chat. But we're going to go through a few of my favorite options out there for Friday, just to give you a little bit of a taste for my process, what I'm looking for in players, and all that kind of jazz. So what do we got down there? Did I see Glover's stats for round one? And he's plus 900 for a top 10. And yeah, I did. There were a few guys that popped like that, right? Ball striking stats through the roof. Bo Hostler was a top 10 ball striking player, lost over 3 strokes putting. Chandler Phillips did the same thing. So I still love Glover. I bet him outright this week. So yeah, you're not going to get any complaints from me when he has that kind of stat profile, and he's playing in the AM wave as well. So there's Jake Bobo. Okay. I'm wondering if DK has gone to pass this drive. I've been watching. I've been obviously talking to you guys there. Antonio also asked, he said, thoughts on the course? It's gorgeous and you love the lava. I like the variance. I like the fact that if you miss off the tee, you're going to pay for it. A lot of lost balls that you had out there for round one. But I like the scoring aspect too. You're going to get that at a resort style course. It's going to play a lot easier than a TPC style venue. So even the traditional country clubs can play a lot harder than that, or a lot easier, I should say. Those courses play a lot harder. I like it. I think it's a good change of pace, right? It's kind of like what we had at Vedanta Vallarta. Honestly, they had the same kind of desert landscape there, really generous fairways, but when you missed, you felt it. I like that a whole lot. And what was the other one? They played the Worldwide Technologies at another golf course too, that Tiger Woods one. Very similar to that as well, where you've got a lot of space, but when you miss, you feel that miss. And honestly, if you're going to miss 40, 50 yards offline, like you have to miss to hit it on the lava rocks on some holes, you should have a penalty stroke. You should maybe have a lost ball because you hit the ball off the planet, right? Sometimes you hit a shot like that and it's on another fairway and you completely get away with it. I like that aspect. It's variance. You may say it comes down to luck, but don't hit it into that shit to begin with, and you don't have to worry about that, would be my counter. Gina threw DK a touchdown, but it was called back for holding. Has he just gotten a catch? I don't need a touchdown. All I need him is to go out there and get me one reception. So I'm gonna double check if he's done that real quick. There's Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker has been catching a lot of passes today, which is not something he always does. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Yeah, there's the 52-yard touchdown that you said was called back. Nothing to him quite yet. So got to get DK involved on this drive. That'd be nice. That touchdown would have been even better. Was it called back for pass interference or holding? So did the pass count, or was it a holding on the line? I guess is the question, right? Oh, there's Tyler Lockett. I have another Tyler Lockett prop too. So I like that he's getting involved as well. Let's talk through a few players on here. I'm not that worried about my sweat. Whatever happens, happens, right? We're not going to change it by following it. But top player up top here, we've got Keith Mitchell as a player that I'm getting to. Ownership isn't great. It's not terrible either at about 20%. If he was a PM Wave player, if he wasn't on the better side of the draw, he would probably be closer to 15% owned. But you're going to see a lot of higher ownership on these players just because of people playing that weather game. So what I like about Keith is that he was decent with the putter out there round one. Ball striking approach in particular was actually a little bit of a sore spot, which is a little bit surprising for Keith. He's normally a very strong iron player. Last week was strong with his iron play in all 4 rounds. So that's a little concerning, especially after that letdown on hole 72 last week. But if he can get back to striking it, he did everything else beautifully in round one. So I'll play him at $10,700. Ownership's not great, but you're only going to have so many guys you can take from the AM wave. That looks like Metcalf. Oh, that's Walker again. Dang it. they're both big, strong. So it's hard to tell the difference between those two, especially when they get moving downhill. They just so physical, those two runners. Chris Kirk here at $9,500. I have him down as a core play here for round two. What I love about this is the shots gained tee to green. He was amazing off the tee. He was even better with his approach play in round number one. And Chris Kirk can get hot on these bent grass greens. You can see over here, he's better on bent grass than most other surfaces. Another player that is also going off in the AM wave. It's going to be the case with every player that we talk about, of course. But $9,500, you can start here, make a very balanced lineup, or potentially even use them as a second man in with a Keith Mitchell. So I'm fading all these PM guys. You could probably guess that. And a Patrick Fishburne, because we only have so many options to choose from, you could probably guess what I'm doing with him, right? If there's only 4 or 5 guys up top that you can possibly use from the AM wave, there's a good chance that he's in my player pool too. So Chris Kirk, though, the one that I have the most conviction with, he is coincidentally also like the highest owned player that we have up there. The reason why I'll use him in particular, though, even at that ownership, is because the shots gained metrics were there. Right? He was going out there, he was hitting the ball well, he was hitting the ball well off the tee as well, which is the most sustainable shots gained metrics from round to round. Also playing a Lucas Glover, a lot of the same can be said about Glover here. Ball striking stats were decent enough out there today and a little bit lower owned than some of the other players in this range. A player like a Ryan Fox, a Chan Kim are coming in at higher ownership marks. And even players like a Matthew McCarty are a solid 4% higher owned. So a Glover who I already bet outright, you guys know, I think he's a decent fit for this kind of golf course. Give me the proper wave, you give me decent ownership. If he wasn't in the AM wave, he'd probably be 12, 13% owned. So that artificial increase, again, a little bit of annoying out there in GPPs, but you shouldn't be playing guys from the PM wave. If it's going to play at least a shot harder, it's just you'd be making a mistake unless you're just hoping to get it right as a pure dart throw. Next up, we've got Harris English here at $8,200. Another player that gained a bunch of strokes when it came to shots gained approach today. And the putter, which is normally electric for Harris English, was just about average out there for round one. So another one of these bent grass putters that I'll get to in a showdown format, especially when they're going to be average to maybe even below average ownership in this range. And also a player that the ball striking stats checked out on. So that's what you can tell with these 3 options, right? The ball striking stats were exceptional, which is why I was willing to call them core plays. And it's why I'm going to get 40, maybe even 50% exposure on those kind of options. There's DK. Did he catch it? 4th and goal. Did not catch it. That bastard. They're going to make me sweat that one out the whole time, aren't we? Let's see. Any questions in the chat about the top end of the board? Utah. Yeah, Utah's a lot of fun. I've only been through the state before. I haven't stayed there for like an extended period of time. But driving through it, it's fantastic out there. And Rad Tracks, yeah. The law firm of Hostler, Meissner, and Coles with a collective 16 under. That would be a hell of a law firm, huh? Especially Meissner. That sounds like a lawyer's last name. Any AM groupings that I'm targeting? No, I don't play that game. I don't think that who you're playing with matters, right? You can look at it after the fact and try and make something like that up, but you're forcing it at that point, right? You're not leaning on anything that's definitive. There's good juju in groups, there's bad juju in groups, and to know how that's going to go ahead of time is a fool's errand, right? I mean, you don't know how these guys are going to gel. One player could start off horrible and set them in the wrong direction. There's just not a good way to go about that. So, hey, if there's anyone that you think gels, play them, right? I mean, go with your own process, I suppose, but that's just way too hard to predict in my opinion. So something that I don't usually include in my process. Down here in the 7K range, I'll point out a few players that I am using. So a Matty Schmid here at $7,800, right side of tee times, and the ball striking stats were there in round one. He's a high birdie percentage player, somebody that at these easier golf tournaments, the Birdie Fest has gotten the job done before. So if he's going to be average to maybe even slightly below average ownership, then I'll play him in this kind of format. Mark Hubbard, I'm using also a Hayden Springer down here. Mark Hubbard, exceptionally low owned because he shot even par today, which is disappointing, worse than average round even in that PM wave, but conditions weren't great, right? Guys have bad rounds. That just happens out there on the PGA Tour. So I'm going to cut him some slack. I'm going to forgive and forget a little bit out there with the Mark Hubbard and look at the long-term upside where he was a top 5 birdie maker of all the players that are in this field. In fact, he's a top 40 birdie maker out there on the PGA Tour. So regardless of the weak field, is a better than average birdie maker out there, and gets the right side of tee times, can play free, right? He's got a sheet like -6 to go out there and make the cut, which is coincidentally what we're looking for out there in our lineups, right? Something that's -6, maybe even -7 or better. Hayden Springer, a little bit higher owned, so 6.5% owned right here. Didn't have the best day either. He's only -1 at this point, but another one of those hyper aggressive players. I mean, we saw him shoot -1259 earlier this year, but it's not just that. He's also scared the first round leader a handful of other times. In general, is a high birdie percentage player, is a top 50 birdie maker on the PGA Tour. All of that is what I like about Hayden Springer. 5-point game. So, and what do they have? All 3 timeouts. Seahawks are making that interesting over there. I went live thinking that the game was pretty much going to be over, especially when the 49ers scored, but they ain't quitting quite yet. That's for damn sure. All right, let's talk about the last play I want to go through here. Actually, there's 2 more plays that we're going to mention before we hop into some lineup construction notes. So David Skins is essentially unowned. So if you're looking for a GPP flyer, I mean, Hayden Springer is somebody I would use in single entry cash. Like I really like him out there for tomorrow. This is more of a GPP flyer. This is more of the kind of play that you're using to offset some chalk up top. If you're playing in the really big $20, $25 GPP for tomorrow, this is the kind of play that can make sure that you're not going to duplicate yourself. Reasoning for liking David Skins would be that bent grass putting. Look at that. 49ers going to score a touchdown. Yeah, they're only up 5, so you better get in there. And by the way, if you had Gorenda in fantasy, he didn't score. He slided. I don't know if that was the move. They could still stop you, right? And they're only up 8 points. I would have scored that if I were Gorenda right there. Maybe I'm wrong, though, right? I'm not a professional football player. They are, but I would have scored right there if I were him. I know they can run it down to like 40 seconds left, but now you've got to get into the end zone, which is a much harder thing to do than just getting a first down in the middle of the field. Like you get down into that small space, you don't have as much room to operate with. I expect to see 3 runs. They're not going to pass. So I guess the room's not as big of an issue, but I don't know. You score, you put away the game. I mean, they've got to go the whole field, or at least probably most of the field, to go out there and score with with 40 seconds left. I don't know about that. We'll have to see how that pans out. But yeah, getting back to this, David Skins, reasoning for liking him would be the McGrath putting stats. And then a few weeks ago, went out there and nuked round 1, right? Showed us a lot of upside with his approach play in putting. Just the last tournament we're at, the Sanderson Farms. So though the form round 1 wasn't great, you're definitely going to have to turn a blind eye to that even par round. He's got the upside. He's got the bent grass stats that we're looking for. And I've seen crazier things happen before. We've also got a Luke List. He's the last play I want to point out here. And part of it's the price tag. Why the hell is Luke List $6,700 in this kind of field? He's only 2.5% owned. Like, I know the form isn't great, but long term, he's one of the best players in this field. He's a poor winner over the last season or so. And what I like about Luke List is he's a top level birdie or better percentage player. Just like a Mark Hubbard, he's a top 50 player in the category on tour. He's top 15 in this field when it comes to his birdie or better percentage. So even when Luke List isn't playing the best golf, he oftentimes goes out there and outscores his placement position, which is exactly the kind of player that we're looking for in Showdown that can go out there, make 7-8 birdies. So he's got the firepower to take on the par 5s. He can also go after the 2 drivable par 4s. Part of that will come down to pin locations, which we're going to look at before we go through props, but he's about as cheap as you need to go. There are a few other guys a little bit cheaper than him that I am including in lineups. But if you're talking about like a cash play down here in the 6K range, it's probably Luke List for me. And there's the touchdown for the 49ers. Okay. I figured that they would have to get in their ear and say like, yo, if they're going to let you score, because you have a much higher implied win equity if you score in that scenario than if you leave them 40 seconds to go and tie the game at 8. So good for them to figure that out. And it looks like my computer's about to die. Unfortunate. Actually, no, I think if I refresh it, it might. Yeah, we're good, actually. Battery's higher than we think. We'll have to see if that works out for them. They scored the touchdown, so they did what they probably should. But if they got stopped there and only were up 8 points, yikes. I would not have agreed with that strategy whatsoever. So where are we at? Have I ever played golf in Utah? No. So I just stopped through the state. So I wasn't staying there or anything like that. I have played golf in Las Vegas. I have played golf in Colorado before. So I have some experience with that type of golf. I'd say the Las Vegas is probably the most similar. You get a lot of those rocks off every single fairway and the ball just travels a mile. So It's a lot of fun. I hit my longest drive ever when I was out there in Las Vegas. Kara did probably about 315, which for me is just getting a hold of one in downwind. And then it hit a down slope and went another like 100 yards. So yeah, I've got one drive in my life over 400 yards, but it was at elevation, downwind, and I got a down slope. So I had a lot going for me, but not a lot of people can say they've hit a 400-yard drive. That's for sure. With Kirk sitting at T15, do I think his top 5 odds at plus 600 seem kind of off? I would say so as an AM player for sure. Like you mentioned that with Lucas Glover as well. The fact that his odds were pretty decent and he's an AM wave player. Yes, I don't think the sports books account for that kind of shit. Prize Picks has. I've looked at the prop boards already, so sneak peek to what we're going to look at here in like 10 minutes. But outside of like Prize Picks, the books don't really account for that kind of stuff. So I would agree with that, especially with the shots gained stats that he's putting up. It'd be tough not to want to play him. Thoughts on Nick Taylor? You watched his round. And he doesn't seem confident in any parts of his game. I saw it too. I don't think it looked that bad. I think he looked a little bit inconsistent, but I like him for a showdown, right? Obviously, form, you'd like to see it, but in a showdown format, sometimes you just have a bad round. And this style of golf course, it really looks similar visually, and it plays similar to what you have at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, which of course is where he's a multiple-time winner. So he's played well at other desert-style golf courses too. And Adam Hadwin, another Canadian, by the way, has played really well at just desert-style golf courses. Part of it might be elevation. You're at elevation at most of those courses. Scottsdale is probably the lowest elevation out of all of them, but it matters. And it's a little bit of a different style when you hit it OB or hit it, I should say, off the fairway. It's essentially like you're hitting it OB, hitting it into the lava rocks or the desert over there at the Waste Management. Who was that? 2nd to 10. Are they running or what are they doing? Okay, yeah, they're not running. I'll say if you're running, that is just giving up down 12 points. That wouldn't be pretty cool. All right, let's head over to Draftkings and let's build a lineup together. So what we're going to do is now we're going to talk through some of the strategy when actually putting players in your lineup and what you should be thinking about when going through a build. So we're just going to build one GPP lineup together, right? Give you a little taste of that. And then we're going to head over to the prop side here. So if you're here for props, just sit tight. We'll get to that here in a minute, but some business to attend to before we get to that side. So first thing I want to go through on here is your top end of the board. So I was mentioning this when we went through our plays at first, but these combinations up here, I think no matter which way you splice it up, are going to be high owned in terms of combinations. And what I mean by that is that you have a theoretical amount of dupes when you multiply together your ownership percentages. That percentage is usually pretty accurate. And by the way, how you do it is you take your product ownership of all the players in a lineup and you multiply it by the amount of entries out there that you're going against. That gives you your theoretical amount of dupes. Your lineups out here for round 2 showdown, in actuality, you're going to get more lineups that are duped using AM players than your theoretical percentage. So for example, let me show you what that would look like, because I know that's a mouthful there. Right? If you started with like a Fishburne and a Chris Kirk, Fishburne especially, like actually, I think a better example might be like Keith Mitchell than Fishburne, right? Mitchell's only like 20%, right? Fishburne's only 16% owns. Your theoretical dupe percentage with those two players, I'm not going to do it right now. I can't do that kind of math in my head, but your actual dupes out there for tomorrow, like the people that start with that kind of combination, is probably going to be double whatever that theoretical number is because of people playing the Weather Edge, right? Because the people that are playing the Weather Edge are all going to have the same players up top. So if you're following me here, right, what that means is that your lineups down low have to be different. They have to have low-owned players. Using somebody that's 15 to 20% owned is useless. It's kind of like a Sunday showdown slate where all of the chalk tends to get kind of like grouped together because of all the people slapdicks all trying to go after placement points. It's going to be a lot of the same, but it's not for a slapdick reason, right? It's a lot of sharps. People like me and you out there looking at the weather, knowing that the morning guys are the guys to go after. So the reason I point that out is that even if you start with like a Fishburne and a Keith Mitchell, who it's not the highest owned combination, like you could normally easily get away with that, you're still going to have to offset your ownership down low because it's going to have a higher chance of being duplicated than it otherwise would be. It's hard to quantify that. I can't give you guys like an exact percentage or anything like that when it comes to like the chances of that happening. But just know that it's much higher. It's not like a little bit higher, the chance of duplicating. It's probably, I mean, if I had to take a guess, it's probably at least double the chance that you're going to duplicate in this kind of scenario. So for our 8K option here, this is where we want to start to try and get a little different. So a Harris English, who's only about 11% owned, gives us some slight differentiation there. And then down here in the 7K range, rather than taking a chalkier option like Smalley, who's closer to 10%, this is where a sub 5% owned Mark Hubbard really comes in handy. In fact, going down here to a Luke List, who's also going to be sub 5% owned, are the kind of guys that you have to get different. And I also mentioned that you might want to consider leaving salary on the table. I might even do that in this kind of build just because of how many people are going towards those AM players. So if I was going to do that, maybe I'd go down here to like $7,100, try and find my favorite player there, maybe even $7,000. I go the whole way down there. And I think Chesson Hadley is an AM Wave player, but yeah, if he's an AM Wave player, like he'd be a good option to round out this kind of lineup with. You've got 3, maybe even 4 leverage options towards the bottom. And even though you're playing the AM Wave, right, you're leaning into the better side of the draw, you're going to have a lineup that's different enough, even in that large field GPP, to make sure you're not duplicated and give you the leverage you're looking for too. So that's what I'll say about this kind of situation is that, you know, you have to play it smart. You do want to go after that weather edge, but you know, you'd be a fool not to know that everyone's going to do that, right? That people are going to go out there, try and stack that side of the draw. Doesn't mean that you have to avoid it, but it just means that you have to be a little bit more careful with who you're using as your last 3-4 players. So that's what I'll say about the lineup construction. If you have any DFS questions, still feel free to go ahead and throw those down in chat. And yeah, haven't been watching this game at all. So it looks like the Seahawks turned it over on downs. I am hoping they keep showing DK Metcalf. I'm still hoping that he got that one catch for us, but we'll have to see what happened there. Thoughts on, we already got the thoughts on Nick Taylor questions. So yeah, if you have any DFX questions, just let me know down in live chat, guys. We're going to look at the prop side now, but yeah, if you have anything over there, just let me know, and best of luck with all of your exposure if you guys are heading down out of here, if you're only here for the DFS side, but a lot to talk about here with props. Speaking of, I want to see what the hell happened with DK Metcalf real quick. So bear with me here for like 5-10 seconds while I check on this bet. You'd think you'd get one more catch, right? Nope. Still at 3 catches. That is, and he's running off the field hurt. Oh God. And how many targets did he have today? He had 11 targets for 3 catches. He's something else. He asked for the ball so much, right? Catch the ball. They're going to throw it to you. If you're going to give you 11 targets, you should probably have at least 5-6 catches, especially if you're going to drop multiple passes. So yeah, DK is he's an amazing talent. I'm a big fan of his, but he's also a bonehead at times too. And definitely a little bit of a bonehead play today on my part to take his over on receptions, apparently. But let's talk through a few props here on the PGA side. So I already talked about the weather before. Weather is going to be a huge factor when we talk about props here. Let me also bring up Prize Picks. I didn't have that up before, but let me do that right now. There we go. There's Prize Picks. So the Prize Picks board has this accounted for. So though there's usually sometimes like a weather edge that we can go after, what you'll see here is that all the PM guys are like an entire stroke higher. So if you go down to the bottom, you'll see guys like even Luke List, who's a bottom tier player, is at 67.5 strokes. Other guys, let's see, Harris English is here at 67.5. Ben Griffin, AM Wave, same projection. Svensson also at that number. PM guys, even some of your elite tier players are at 68.5 at the very best. So I would say that Prize Picks has handled this the right way. In fact, let me look at Underdog. Underdog didn't have a board up before, so let me pull that up because I'm interested to see if they just copy and pasted Prize Picks or if they're going to do their own projections. Because if they do their own stuff, there's a real chance that they screw up the pricing, that they don't account for the tee times. It doesn't look like they have anything posted quite yet, but we'll have to see what they end up going with on that side. And the unfortunate thing I'll say about this is they have these guys at 67.5 strokes. So they've got to shoot -4 to go under. It just feels like it's asking a whole lot. I know the scoring average was -2.78 in the morning, but unless the pins are as easy as what we had for round 1, I'm going to have a hard time wanting to play many props here because, you know, I think fading players is not a great idea either. But at the same time, to shoot -4 to gain over a stroke to the field is only something that I would, take elite players to do. So, like, for example, like one that comes to mind is Keith Mitchell. He's like the best player in this field. He's got the best form of anyone out there. AM wave tea time, right? If I was going to take anyone for an under, it would likely be a Keith Mitchell. But before I do that, let me see if they've posted the pin locations over there on Twitter. It's going to be a huge deal for me, these pin locations, because the greens here are almost the easiest greens that I've ever seen when it comes to your iron play. The green regulation average, by the way, let me show you that here real quickly. Green regulation average, if you take a look at it on here, was 14 per round. Birdie average just under 5 per round. It's one of the highest averages that we've seen for quite some time. Bogey average, pretty average actually, at 2.4 per round. But fairways, 12 per round. That is unheard of. There's only 14 fairways on the golf course, for goodness sakes. And then the green regulation average being 14 per round it's the highest that I can remember. I think we've had over 14 at the Bermuda Championship before, but that was a no wind. It was a completely soggy golf course that they were playing. It wasn't even soggy out there, right? I wouldn't call it firm and fast out this golf course, but the fact that they hit so many greens was not necessarily a byproduct of the conditions, but I think the greens themselves, and you're going to get a good taste for this. I forgot to bring up the shot tracker. We're actually going to go hole by hole and go through this because I think it's the most important factor. When you see the greens, you're going to understand why I'm putting so much emphasis on the pin locations, because the slopes on them are incredible. I mean, the way that they set up the course today was like they wanted there to be a 59. It's like they wanted it to be an absolute birdie fest. So let's go through those real quick. So we have a question. So let me get to that here. Thoughts on Steven Jaeger, and I don't know who KK is. Under maybe Kurt Kitayama is who you're talking about there. Unders at 67.5. If you're getting plus money, Jaeger's a PM guy, so I wouldn't take that. Kurt Kitayama is also a PM guy. I'd probably stay away from those, Antonio. If the scoring average was about 1.5 under par in the PM wave, you'd have to gain 2.5 strokes to the field to cover that kind of line, which is possible. I don't think plus money is like the worst bet in human history, but I wouldn't say that there's a huge edge on that kind of thing, because those kind of players you're projecting for 1.5 to 2 shots gained per round, they're going to have a little bit better than average round to go out there and shoot -4, assuming that's going to play to the same average as round one, of course. That just doesn't feel like, I don't know. I just don't think there's an edge there, right? Like, you might be able to take them and get away with it, but I wouldn't say that there's an edge on those PM guys. Let's go through these pin locations. By the way, this could change that. Still looking at what we have with pins. So hole number 1 is in the back right. So let's do that. It's over here to the back side. This is round 1. Am I looking at the wrong pins, or did they post the round 1 sheet again? Oh my God, these are fucking morons that run the PGA Tour site. So look what they did. They posted the round 1 sheet again and said that it's the round 1 pin locations, because 2, I can tell you, is the same pin. 3 is the round 1 pin location. All of them are what we had for round 1. They're obviously not running it back for round 2. So fucking damn it. These morons that run the tour can't even post the right pin sheet out there for the second day. So let me see if I can find it on FanDuel. Actually, I already have FanDuel up. Somebody was saying that you can find the pins on FanDuel. So let's see if that is actually true here. And it wasn't showing up for me, I think because I'm in a legal state, not one that, at least where FanDuel's legal. Hard Rock bet is, but yeah, it's not showing up right there. Draftkings doesn't have it either, right? The like shot by shot tracker where you can see the pin locations. Jesus. That's the thing, and that's like really important for our process too, right? Knowing these pin locations. I'll at least show you why I'm so anal about what we're going to see with this, because it really matters. And yeah, there's nothing over here on DraftKings. I go to the tournament lines, they don't have the shot tracker up. Actually, yes, they do. I'm completely capping. Let's see. So we want to go to groups. We want to change this to round 2. I believe this is how you do it, if the people that were telling me how you do this are correct. And then it should be loaded on round 2. Yeah, they don't have their scores posted yet. Okay, yeah, look at this. And it's a different location. So Okay, we're gonna have to do it this way. All right, we found a way to get the pin locations, and by the way, they send them out beforehand to the sports book, so they actually have the pin locations right on here, and we'll go through it. And I was told this before, so I went and backchecked it. It is actually correct, and it's also right for the DP World Tour as well. They also load them in on the DraftKings and FanDuel, so if they ever don't put out the pin sheets for either site, now you know how to find them over there on these shot trackers. Got 33% Svensson, just need Fishburne to pull through. Best of luck. He's got a good tee time for it, but he's probably going to have to shoot -6 for you. So play him in Showdown too. Try and take advantage if he can shoot that -6. But that would be that's a tough one, that's for sure. What's going on, Joseph? He said, thanks, buddy. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were in here before. Best of luck with all your stuff, man. Let's go through this. So this first pin's over here on the left side. We can't see the exact location, which is a little bit annoying, but it's towards the front of the second bunker, which is over about yonder. And here's why I want to show you guys the greens on here. So you can see the round one pin location was towards the back right, had a little bit of a backstop to work the ball off of. And what you saw players do is a lot of them landed up there and then end up right where this number 2 is. So come back to like 5-6 feet. If you missed over here to the right, maybe you actually see this shot right here for Svensson, right? He would have missed the green. I mean, like, I said, like, there's a 14 green regulation average. It's not really that these guys were hitting a lot of greens. I mean, look at this, right? Svensson missed the green. Ball ends up 6 feet away from the hole, then he makes birdie. The pin location for tomorrow is not that easy. It is tucked over here towards the left. Again, it's over here in the bottom right that we're looking at to get the pin location, right here. You'll see that there's a false front just in front of it. And then obviously you're tucked over near those bunkers on the left side. So obviously we're going to have to go through the rest of the pins here to see what we're dealing with. But if that's going to be the trend that we have going forward, this course is not going to be as easy. In fact, if they're all like this, it's going to be significantly harder. So, and especially for the PM guys that are out there in some wind. So let's see hole number 2 now. So hole number 2 is towards the back middle of the front green. So hole number 2 is actually a double green, which is not something you see very often on tour. So this is hole 8, I believe, over here towards the backside. They're not going to put a pin location back there for hole number 2. The pin that we have that we're concerned with is back middle, I guess, like here, something around there for a pin location. So it's going to play longer. It's further into the green. You're also going to bring that miss into the left hazard into play, particularly if there's any severe crosswinds to deal with. And it's a longer hole. So a lot of guys were hitting a wedge into this today, something from like 130 to 160 yards. It's going to be closer to 180 yards, which is still a short club because of the elevation out there. But that's not an easy pin location. Let's see. Again, these pins are wrong. The ones they have on the PGA Tour Twitter, by the way, are the ones from round 1. So the slapdick media intern, I guess, got that wrong. Maybe had a few too many Trulies or something over there on a Thursday. But let's look at hole number 3. So hole 3 is on the front right. This is the same kind of green that they have at 6 at Riviera. So if it's anything like that green complex, you're going to have a backstop to work with. So holes 1 and 2 were maybe a little bit harder than what we had for round 1. I actually think that this one's easier. Yeah. And you can see the green is built the same way as what we have at 6 at Riviera. So it's over here towards the, I guess, left side of that front right quadrant, which is going to put it right about here. So you're going to have to take on the bunker a little bit to get it close. But if you throw it past this pin location, it's going to come off the slope and then probably right to the hole. So this pin location for round 1, by the way, had a backstop up there. It was a little bit longer than the shot that you're going to have for round 2, though. So it's a slightly easier pin, but it's not that much easier because you still did have that backstop out there for the first day. Let's look at hole 4 now. Tucked on the back left. Oh, boy. Yeah, no, these pins, at least the first 4 holes, are significantly more difficult. So what you had for today was it was over here on the right side. You had that little bit of a slope on the right. I guess that would help you get closer to this pin location. And then a little bit of a slope past the hole that brought you back as well. Now we're over here on the back left side. There's not really as much slope helping you there. There's a little bit off the left, which I guess could help you out if you're just missing a little bit over there. And then there's a slight amount of slope over here to the right side, but not nearly as much of a backstop and side stop as what you had for round 1. So another one that's maybe slightly more difficult. which I'm assuming this is going to be a trend at this point. Hole number 5 wasn't drivable for a lot of the field, so most people were laying up. So though it is only 320 yards, we're going to have to account for that. So it's over here on the right side. Let me see how far. So it's like right back middle. So like over here where you can see me moving my cursor, it's probably about the same as what you had for today. Maybe slightly easier, I would say. Only reason I say maybe slightly easier is that you have this slope just over the bunker, which made it hard to hit a off-speed shot and get it close to the pin location. You had to hit it past and then just, drag it back with spin, like a lot of players were doing for today. Now that it's over here on the right, you can still spin it and get it close. You throw it back, past it like 3-4 yards. You can get that done. Or you can hit the off-speed shot because you don't have, a slope right in front of it. It's not like you have to hit it right over a bunker too. So I'd say that 5's a little bit easier. So that's 3 that are harder, 2 that are easier so far. Hole 6 is a front left pin location. So tough tee shot. You've got water in play on both sides. And then it's over here, which, I mean, I don't know if I would say it's easier because you had a backstop today. You also had this side stop to the right, but it is a shorter pin location. So I would say that this one's pretty neutral. Not sure if I'd say it's easier or harder. See 7. So this one's a par 5. It's over there on the right side. Let's get this to load here a little quicker. There we go. So it's over on the right side of the screen, about here. That's about the same as what you had for today. Another neutral pin location, right? But it's front left, not much slope to work with. And now it's going to be over there on the front right. This false front, I guess, was a little bit tough to chip over today. I saw a few guys duff chip shots in front of that false front. So marginally easier, we'll say, over there in hole number 7. So now it's like 3, 3, and 2, right? That we've got so far, or 3, 2, and 2. Some easier, some harder in terms of the profile. So let's look at hole number 8. So 8's in the back middle. So this is going to be a much harder pin location. I can just tell you right now that this will be harder. The one that they had today was super short. You could hit a wedge and drag it back to this pin. In fact, there was a hole-in-one out there at that pin location. And now it's going to be way back here, which you still have a little bit of a backstop. So I think that's going to help players try and get it close, but it's a much longer shot. It brings in a little bit of that natural area to the left, and it's a thinner part of the green. So that is for sure a harder pin location. Let's look at 9. So 9 is like a back middle, it looks like, which is, it's a par 5, which back middle is usually an easy pin location. And yeah, this one's easier than what we had for round 1. So I'd say it's a pretty good mix of pin locations. A few that are going to have that same punch bowl effect that we had for today, and then a few that look a little bit harder. But let's go up to the back 9 as well. So hole 10's shorter par 4. It's going to be a front right pin location. Come on, get us to hole 10 now. So hole 10 over here on the front right side. Very similar pin to what you had for round 1. Let's look at 11 now. So 11's a longer par 4. It's over 500 yards. It's a back middle pin location, which just like the par 5s, when you have a longer par 4, you'd rather have a back pin location as it gives you a little bit more space to roll the ball up, especially when you have a backstop like that. So I would say that this hole it's easier than what you had for round 1. Round 1, it was also tucked towards the water on the right. Hole 12, let's look at that one. 12, front left pin location. So that's over here towards the bunker a little bit. This is an easier pin location than round 1. Though you did have a backstop out here for Thursday, you had this slope in front of the pin location, which made it pretty hard to get it close. So I would say that this pin location at 12, you're going to see more scoring at. Let's look at 13. So 13 is another beefy hole, real tough tee shot. You guys can see on the left side. And it's a right side pin location. So let's see what the slopes look like. So round 1, this one was a lot easier. You had the slope on the right that would help you get it closer. Even a slope behind the hole that you could try and drag it off of. You weren't hitting a wedge though, right? So it's not like you were going to spin it down that slope. But if you hit it a little bit long, it would maybe roll back into this little bit of a bowl. Now it's on the right side, which you do have a side slope to work with. But you also have a slope to the left that'll take the ball away. So this pin's harder than what you had for Thursday for sure. Let's look at 14. So 14's drivable par 4. It's now going to be in the back middle. This is probably a neutral pin location. Actually, this one's a little bit harder than what you had for round one. So while you have some space, I mean, you can go for the pin location off the tee, I guess, a little bit easier, but your chip shots are going to be a lot harder than round one. Round one, you had a little bit of a backstop to use if you ended up missing here on the left side. And also, it was close to the front of the green where most people were missing their tee shot. So if you had to chip up, it was relatively straightforward. The issue is for round two is, yeah, you can get it closer if you're actually driving the green, but you do have the slope. You can see it right there, right in the middle of the green. It's like an L shape, like something like that you have for that curvature. That's going to make chip shots pretty difficult. So I'd say that one's marginally more difficult. Let's look at 15 now. 200-yard par three. It is tucked there on the right side. So this is easier than round one. It's not over the bunker anymore. You have a little bit more room over there towards the right side. Let's look at the next one. So 16, longer par four. It's in the middle right. It's not a back pin location. If it was a little bit closer to the back, I'd say that this would be easier, but it's towards this middle right. So I would say marginally more difficult, but it's not like it's going to be hard or anything. It's still a very simple golf course. 17, short par three. It's tucked in the back. This will be a harder pin location. The one that they had today, and this is the hole they had the hole in one on, by the way. It wasn't the other hole that I cited. That was my bad there. It was definitely this one where you saw the hole in one. You had the slope behind it. You could help it get it close because it was only 130 yards. Now you still have to hit a wedge. It's 150 yards now, but you got to remember it's at elevation. So you're still hitting probably a pitching wedge at most, if not something smaller to this back pin location, which makes controlling the spin pretty hard. So yeah, that one's going to be harder scoring. And then 18's a par five. And it's tucked way there on the left. Oh, that looks a little dicey over there. It hardly looks like it's on the green. So probably easier than today. So let me see how far back it is. It's actually towards the front over here in that front left. So about here. You do have a false front you're going to have to deal with. If you miss in front of this false front, it's a little bit of a tricky chip shot, I guess, depending on how good your around the green is. But yeah, this one in the back, though, I mean, you had some long chips. I mean, you had a lot of people that, I mean, you can see the shot right here, right, for Svensson, that were missing in front of the green. I know he got it up and down. I know he hit that chip to 3 feet, but a lot of people were hitting that to 8 to 9 feet. So I would say that these pin locations are a mixed bag. At first I thought they were going to be a lot harder than what we had for round one, because like the first 4 holes were all more difficult, or at least neutral, but you do have a lot that are easier out there as well. So these stat averages that we were looking at before, I still wanted to look at those pins because they're dynamic with the slopes, but I don't think it's going to change all that much. Like your bogey average might go a little bit up, I would say. A few of those par threes in particular, I think are going to be harder. But your birdie average, I would say it's going to be at least 4.75 per round, to if not right around what you had out there for round one. So I would say scoring average, I would probably put about 2 strokes under par, maybe slightly harder, a little bit because of those pins. I only think it's a small effect out there, but also because of the course getting a little bit firmer and faster. So that's what I'll say about conditions. I know that was long there, but you guys know I like to do my due diligence. That's for sure. So where are we at? You took Wesley Bryan under 69 strokes. Don't beat yourself up too much about that, CV. Yeah, and the picks have been bumping a lot, so it's been pretty annoying. But yeah, 69 strokes, that's a pretty low line. So you probably entered for the PM wave, I'm guessing, right? Over there late in the day. I've seen worse bets. It's a birdie fest, right? You could take some unders, but hopefully we get you here for round 2. And you're in the live stream, so you're in the place to be. With these pin locations and the wins, do I see carnage? No, not carnage. I mean, it's too easy of a course to say that it's going to be carnage, but one in maybe a stroke under par scoring average, which for a course that's this easy is, about as hard as it's going to get. So I would say that it's going to play harder, just like what you saw for round 1. If you're just joining us, by the way, round 1, there was a 1.3 shot difference between the morning and the afternoon. It's probably going to be a lot of the same there. You played this. If I played this course, do I think I could shoot better than Dustin Volk? What did he shoot? Was he like +9 or something? Yeah, he's +9. Probably not. No, that's probably a lot better than what I would do. I'm a I'm like an 8.5 now. My handicap's getting worse because I'm not playing very much golf, which just sucks. When your handicap is just slipping away, it's not a great feeling, of course. But at a course like this, I'm probably shooting double my handicap, if not even slightly worse than that. So I'd be lucky to break 90 at this kind of golf course. I think that would be a pretty decent day if I could break 90. And Volk's gonna potentially break 80, I guess, depending on how he finishes his round. So yeah, he's definitely got me beat. But yeah, who the hell is this guy, by the way? Dustin Volk. I'm assuming he's some old timer. Yo, you click on you click on Dustin Volk, guys. Hopefully you guys catch the humor in that, right? I say, who the fuck is this guy, right? I click on Dustin Volk. It brings up Scotty Scheffler. I guess Dustin Volk is the GOAT, right? It's going to Scotty Scheffler's page. Oh god, that's gotta be a sign out there for Dustin. So let's talk through a few props now. So let me see if Underdog is posted. I know we have stuff posted on Prize Picks that we're going to go through regardless. But yeah, nothing over there in Underdog quite yet. If you're going to take anything, as I was mentioning before, you'd want it to be an AM Wave player, right? It played 1.3 shots easier. That's nothing to scoff at. And I would expect around the similar scoring average. It's probably going to play at least 2.5 under par in the morning, if not slightly easier than that. And the next thing I want to look at are some of these sportsbook odds. So we've got DraftKings up. We've also got FanDuel to look at. Do they have anything posted for Mitchell? It didn't look like it before. Yeah, so nothing on DraftKings when it comes to Mitchell, which probably means FanDuel doesn't have anything up, but that's kind of surprising. So yeah, nothing posted for Keith Mitchell there. Let's see. So they have Jaeger at 67.5, but he is juiced towards the over. He is a PM Wave player, so I guess that would be to be expected. And then Bo Hostler's also PM Wave. Are there any AM guys posted? I guess Chris Kirk, right? And you can see here, right? He's juiced under at 67.5. Yeah, no Keith Mitchell prop. Let me check Caesars. They've been offering Keith Mitchell props for like all this fall swing. I don't know why they're stopping all of a sudden, especially because he's the best player in this field. That's a little bit surprising to me. But we've got Caesars up. Maybe they've got us covered. Sometimes they post guys that these other sites aren't. There's Chan Kim. Why is Chan Kim locked? He withdraw or something? Kurt Kaneyama is only minus 130 for the over here on Caesars. William Hill. Henrik Norlander, honestly, I don't know when he tees off, but he's even money there at 67.5. Also curious to see what they have the birdie lines at. It didn't look like they had them up over here on FanDuel, unfortunately, but we can look at them over here on Caesars. So Svenny, over 4.5, heavily juiced. Same thing with pretty much everyone on the board. In fact, you even got some guys down here like a McCarty, Kitayama, and Jaeger up there at 5.5 birdies, which I don't know what these sports books are doing with their odds. Like they've got guys like Kitayama, who are the other ones up here? Jaeger, all at 67.5, and they're PM Wave players. Yet Chris Kirk is here at 68.5, and he's AM Wave on the better side of the draw. So I guess if I had access to these lines, guys, this Chris Kirk line I'd be hammering. Even at minus 150 juice, I would 100% enter that. And hell, even Svensson, even though he's the leader after round one, maybe playing with a little bit of extra pressure, I would enter that at minus 140. Like these lines on Prize Picks that are one stroke lower, I mean, just to show you their lines, right? They're both at 67.5. God, there's so many names on here. It's hard to find. So there's Glover, right? 67.5. All of those AM guys are going to have the same projection. I think the best place to play, especially if you have access to all of it, would be the 68.5. So unfortunate that we can't take those on Prize Picks, but I don't know what they're doing with the pricing. It seems a little bit off to me. They only have the round scores up, no morning. It's so strange. I don't get it. And yeah, Volk definitely, he's got me, dude. I'm decent at golf, but I'm not that great. DraftKings and FanDuel are so inconsistent with the props. How do I not have a prop for the best player in the field? Facts. And I don't know if he's like 100% the best player in the field, but he's at least one of the top 3 to 5, right? So if we're saying that, like, you got to have your top 3 to 5 players posted. It's kind of unexcusable, that's for sure. Antonio says, Ryan Fox and Chan odds are locked for you as well. I don't get it, right? They didn't withdraw. I'm going to say, like, right? They didn't withdraw, right? Because maybe I missed something. Like, what the hell? I'm going to the PGA Tour site right now to check because they don't usually lock the odds on somebody unless something like that happens, right? I mean, like, why would you be locking the odds of a golf prop before it starts? Let's see. So didn't withdraw after the round. Beats me. No idea. Did they fix the pin sheet? Okay, we're gonna let them know. This is the round 1 sheet. Maybe they just don't know. It looks like someone else let them know. Jordan noticed too, so good for him. But we'll let them know again that they have the wrong sheet on there. That is just cannot believe they're doing that. All right, let's see what we can work with on here. So Keith Mitchell, we don't have a line to compare to, right? That's why we were looking at DraftKings FanDuel trying to figure out what the hell they had up because it'd be good to be able to compare odds. Unfortunately, we're not going to have those to compare to. So for the time being, I guess we're going to have to assume that, I mean, I would assume he'd probably be close to even money at 67.5. So if you're going to try and find a positive stance play, that is likely the best option that we can go with. Unfortunate thing now is like, what the hell do you do for the PM wave? Or what do you do for a pair? Because I don't love these guys at 67.5. Like, there's no way in hell I would play Luke List for an under at 67.5. Do I think he could have a great day? Yes, right? But on a 50-50 prop, there's just no chance in hell. Like, for example, I like Harris English for tomorrow, but I'm not betting him to shoot -4. In fact, even Keith at 67.5 makes me want to throw up in my mouth a little bit. He's far from Scotty Scheffler or Dustin Volk, I guess, out there with his pedigree. Ben Griffin here at 67.5. Fishburne, like, oh. I've got to say, guys, this is probably my least favorite prop board that I've ever seen. Because, like, I think it's going to play easy. I mean, scoring average reflected that. Morning guys are going to tear up this golf course. But it's these pure slapdicks to go out there and shoot -4. And we don't even have the sportsbook odds to look at, right? I mean, we want to go on here and be able to figure out, like, maybe if they're juiced under at 67.5, and we have no way to even check that because of the way that they're doing the sportsbook odds here. So, yikes, right? Like, the only early starter they have up here is Svensson, and then, ironically, Chris Kirk at 68.5 strokes. Which, again, if you can get these lines, I think it was -140, -150 over there on FanDuel. Those are probably the best plays to go for right now. So let me see if Underdog is posted. Maybe they can save us with some soft lines. So still nothing posted on the PGA side over there. Let's look at some Eurogolf stuff in the meantime. So as I had the Eurogolf averages on the sheet, if you were looking at it before, stroke average was 0.2 over and your birdie average was 3.25 per round. I do want to check on the latest forecast for the DP World Tour as it looked clear. It looked relatively calm for round 2, which round 1, it was a little bit windy. It was that 10 to 15 mile an hour range. And then you also had rain during play for most of the round. So if it's going to be clear, if it's going to be a little bit calmer, I would expect these averages to get a little bit easier. And what you can see on here is that it played slightly over par for round 1 with only that just over a 3 birdie average. So let's see what they've got on here. Not course. We want to find weather, which is down here. I'm still trying to get them to change the sheet. I was hoping that it was the PGA Tour replying to me, but it wasn't. Over there on my phone. So let's see. So 5 to 10 mile an hour winds. Doesn't look like there's going to be any rain. There's some fog, so we know it's going to be relatively soft out there. It's going to be relatively humid, and the winds don't really ever kick up, right? It's 5 to 10 miles an hour. You can see on this wind the entire day. So the stroke average, which I'll show you the hole by hole breakdown over here for the DP World Tour, is going to get a whole lot easier. So you can see over here, there were a few holes that were playing over par. What you'll see at this course historically, which I think it's called the Paris Open, right? No, it's French Open. Well, what the hell do they call this event? Or France? I guess it's France, right? Yeah, Kazoo Open de France is what it used to be called. If you take a look at the hole-by-hole averages from last year, round 1, right, it played 0.2 strokes over par. This is the same kind of averages that we had. You can see the distribution is almost identical, right, out there for round 1. If it's going to be calm and soft out there, we're going to get the round 3 averages, which is what you can see over here, where it played like 0.6 under par. This was a relatively good weather day over there for the Kazoo Open. And you can see over here, the finishing stretch is still pretty hard. So I don't think that's going to change, but you're going to see a lot more birdies in the mix, especially over there on the front 9 and middle part of your round. So these averages, I would expect to get better. Their stroke average probably going to be about a half a stroke under. This birdie average is going to be at least 4 per round. So if we take a look at the board over here, I'm going to take the Keith Mitchell prop out of there. I'm not sure if I'm going to play that. It's just because, I don't know, guys, that PGA board is something else. Shoot 4 under par to go out there and hit is just, and it makes you roll your eyes. You're like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, honestly, at a certain point, guys, it's like you'd want to take overs, right? The thing is, the golf course is way too easy to make me want to do that. So that's why it's a little bit of a conundrum. But yeah, this DP World Tour side, let's make a slip for that because I feel a lot more comfortable with it. And if I think the birdie average is going to go up significantly, I'd say to at least 3.5. I'd say 3.5 to 3.75 birdie or better per round. Player like Thomas Dietrich, who's an elite tier birdie maker on the DP World Tour, even Alex Fitzpatrick is a well above average birdie maker on that side, might not be the worst idea for a prop. And just looking back at this weather forecast, it does look like it's going to be pretty cool early, right? And that dense fog could make the ball travel a little bit less far. I think the PM guys might actually get the better side of the draw, right? Because the winds are still going to be pretty much non-existent the entire day, except that it warms up. So the ball is going to travel a little bit further and it's still going to be extremely calm. So I think my favorite prop that I have on here would either be this Justin Rose over, who's in the PM wave. 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Tee time is, I believe, a 1:30 p.m. start time over there on the DP World Tour side. Probably one of these two. And in fact, maybe we just enter those two together. Let's look at their strokes. So they're at -1.5. It's a par 71, by the way, out there at that golf course. So if they were going to shoot a 69, that would be -2, which is about gaining 1.5 strokes to the field to go out there and do that kind of thing. Maybe 1 stroke, depending on the scoring average tomorrow. Soderberg's good. I wish they had him at 4 birdies like they did for round 1. He was an over that I've already played to this point. Also worth noting, they do have sportsbook lines posted over here for the Open de France. So if I bring these up, we can look at them. And I think Caesars even has birdie lines posted. So let's see if they do. They did for round 1 at least. Okay, they do. If we can get it to load over here, there it is. They're the birdie lines that we're looking for. So Thorbjorn's juiced a little bit under at 4.5. Højgaard's pretty close to even money. Rose is juiced under at 4.5, but he is at least up at 4.5 birdies. And then they don't have a Thomas Dietrich line posted. So and you can see down here, they do have Svensson down there at 3.5 birdies, but he is juiced towards the over. So if I had to choose between these two, I would side towards Thomas Dietrich only because he has experience at this course at the Olympics this year, and he made 4+ birdies in every single round. So I like that. Round 1, by the way, Thomas Dietrich only had 3 birdies, so he did not cover that out there for the first day, but he missed a ton of putts. How I know that? Because they took him for a prop out there last night. So he had a miss from 5 feet on one of the par 5s. He had a 7-footer that he missed on the last hole. It was just an absolute train wreck out there for Dietrich in terms of the putter. And he's one of the better putters that you have on the DP World Tour. So I definitely want to take that. I feel pretty confident about that prop. Push equity at 4. That's huge with taking that sort of spot. And I think if he had a line here in Caesars, that he'd probably be at least 4.5. He'd probably be juiced under like some of the other players here. Like, he'd probably have a similar line here to Nicolai Højgaard, but with that push equity at 4, that changes things a bit. Let me see if he has a strokes line. They don't have a ton of these up here, I suppose. Yeah, so probably not gonna get a good comparison there. Do they have anything on FanDuel? I don't even think they post odds for the DP World Tour, do they? I could be wrong. All tournaments. Yeah, they do. Okay, let's see. Do they have but yeah, no strokes lines, it looks like. Second round leader. Anything? Yeah. Nothing when it comes to strokes over here in FanDuel. So we're going to stick with the Thomas Dietrich prop for now. If we're going to mix it in with anything, I guess this Keith Mitchell under on strokes isn't the worst idea. I was potentially considering taking a Chris Kirk under in strokes. Before we saw the board, I was really hoping he'd be at 68.5 strokes, but he is down here at 67.5, which just makes me chuckle, right? The fact they have these guys at 3.5 under par, it's a bit of a joke of a golf course. So yeah, I'd still side with probably Mitchell over Chris Kirk, even though Chris Kirk has the better shots gained metrics out there for round one, just because Keith Mitchell has the better form over the last 3 or 4 so months. The last 3 months mean a whole lot more than to me than what we saw for round one. So I'm not 100% sure I'm going to enter this. This Keith Mitchell prop, I can't sell myself on to go out there and take it myself quite yet. But let's see what we have here in Underdog. Anything posted, at least in terms of a board. They're slacking the hell off. What are they, watching the football game or something? Rather than posting their props? Let me see if there's any questions in chat. These names are fucking gross. Yeah, dude. Thoughts on Doug Gim for over 68.5 at plus money? Let me see his tee time real quick, because that's important when it comes to that. So yeah, he's a PM wave golfer. So -2 round would even be gaining like a half a stroke to the field. I feel like that one's about right, I would say, man. Like, I was going to say, like, maybe it's a lean towards the over, but Doug Gim, if the scoring average is going to be like 1.5 under par for the PM wave, he projects for half a stroke to a stroke to gain in this kind of field. Like, he's not the best player on tour, but he is a consistent gainer in terms of his shots gained. A lot of that because of his shots gained ball striking. He's a very consistent hitter of the golf ball. So because of that, I would say it's an adequate line. I would say that having him at like plus like 105 plus 110 is probably where he should be. So I don't know if I would lean that much one way or the other right there. But if you're going to fade anyone, I will say that the PM guys are what you want to go after, right? You want to take the guys that are going to be on the bad side of the draw. Yeah, the -140s, -150s are really tough. That's for damn sure. And you said you're in Illinois, so you can bet those numbers. Oof. Maybe you can parlay them. I'm not sure the rules on that. But yeah, dude, the juice isn't great. That is why I like sites like Underdog Prize Picks. You know, they can be stingy with the pricing at times, but at least you're getting the same payouts regardless of what you're entering. There's definitely a lot of beauty to that, to simplifying it for people, especially like people that are newer to betting. Like if you haven't bet on sportsbooks before, it can be a little bit intimidating when it comes to the odds. But a site like Prize Picks Underdog, that's the beauty of those sites. I think that why they've gotten so much popularity is it's just a lot more simple. Now they're adding multipliers, they're making it more complicated, but the simplicity at its simplest form is great. Is Norlander PM or AM? His strokes line is 67.5 and he's even money. Let me double check for you because I don't know. Yeah, he's PM wave, so he's going off late. Just like Doug Gim, I feel like that's a decent line. Maybe you would slightly lean towards the over, but I would rather have the plus money on Doug Gim for an over there. You have the strokes lines for the DP World Tour. Oh, yeah, I see them over here on Draftkings. I can't get them on FanDuel, though. Yeah, the strokes lines, just to look at them over here on Draftkings, most of them are juiced under at 70.5. And then even Rasmus Højgaard here is -130 towards the under. So, actually, Højgaard won here. He has this course record at this golf course as well. Like, I hate to make it like a Euro golf slip, but we talked so much about the PGA Tour tonight, right? We're over an hour into this live stream. We've probably taken an hour on the PGA Tour, only like 5 minutes on the DP World Tour, but this PGA board is just terrible. Let me see if there's any fades we could take at least. Like, I know these lines are low, right? So maybe the play is to take an over, but it's such an easy golf course. It's hard to do that too, or hard to want to do that. Let's see if there's any obvious candidates, though, that we can mix in here for a fade. Oh, Reevy? But he's an AM. Oh, God. He's an AM wave player. If he was PM wave, that would be cash money right there. Oh, Streelman? He's PM, but he's up there at 69.5. Geez, I know that Harry Hall, by the way, I know we didn't look at this prop before because he's PM wave. He is juiced towards the under. So, like, I guess if you're looking for like a plus EV lean, Harry Hall technically would be that at minus 140. But even these PM guys at 16.5, like the golf course was pretty spicy. If we take a look at, if we go back to the scoreboard over here on the PGA side, which I'll do here real quickly, let's sort this by wave. The only guys that went off in the PM wave are you had Ryder go off, Svensson, Carson Young, Chris Kirk, they're at -5. Not nearly as many people that were getting to that -3 or better number. So you can see all these green guys, right? The green guys are the guys that were playing on the easier side of tee times. Top end of the board is like 75% green, if not closer to like, I'd say 70, 75% is a good number for these guys that were shooting -3 or better. It's just in an ideal scenario, right? I mean, it's if and or buts. We can say it all we want, right? Harry Hall would be an AM wave player, right? It would be at 68.5 strokes and then also juiced towards the under. Unfortunately, he's on the wrong side of the draw. So I think if you want to wash away the multiplier, you could mix in this Harry Hall under. But if I was going to enter anything for the stream, in fact, the slip that I'll probably take are these two props. In fact, what is did they have anything posted for Dietrich on strokes? I guess we can double check that. Was he at 70? So yeah, no Dietrich strokes line, which is I guess probably because they didn't have anything up on the sports books to compare to. But yeah, this slip over here on the DP World Tour is probably what we're going to go with for the stream here. Let's see, anything on Underdog yet? Still no board posted. So yeah, maybe they're waiting for tomorrow morning and the guys to finish up round 1 before they post. Gosh, these books are really skimping out, right? No Keith Mitchell props, no props in Underdog. Like, come on now. You want any specific player strokes lines? I'm probably good, Antonio, just because I get a pretty good taste for what they're going with. But I'd say my favorite lines that we were looking at on there, like this Rasmus one was the one that stuck out to me because like he's got the course history going for him. But yeah, they have most of them on here, so I'm probably good on that. Appreciate you, though, asking about that. You hammered both the Højgaard brothers tomorrow. They play well there, 100%. And I didn't know that Nico also killed it there, but that would make sense. He fits that kind of golf course quite well. I'm not a big DP World Tour guy, at least not as big as I am over there on the PGA Tour, but that's good to know for sure. Is Jesper Svensson related to Adam? No, he's not. I think their last names are spelled a little bit differently. They might not be. I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, they're not related. One of them is Swedish. One of them is Canadian. So unless their parents split up and they ended up getting split up between the parents or something, probably not. So that's all I've got for the live stream, though, guys. Hopefully you feel a little bit more prepared for all of your exposure tomorrow. Go ahead, smash that like button if you guys haven't already, and also check out the Patreon page for all of the content I have to offer. That includes the spreadsheet that you guys saw over there for DFS. So for all my projections and player pool, make sure to check out the DFS tier for that, as well as for all the prop slips that I'm entering. So obviously when Underdog posts a board, we'll have to see what they have for their pricing. And for all of the slips that I'm actually putting in with my hard-earned money, make sure to check out the Patreon page there. On there, I'm posting all my exposure as I'm getting to it. Oftentimes, there are a lot of bumps on the stuff that I'm entering because, you know, it's whether it's steam chasing or whether it's bumping based on my action. If you want all of that before all of that happens, Patreon is the place to be for that. So check that out if you guys haven't already. Best of luck with all of your exposure. I want to see a few takedowns from the community. I want to see a few prop slips cashed out from you guys out there. And let's make it a good one. And we'll be doing the same things from rounds 3 and 4. So make sure to stop on by for that. And let's have ourselves a weekend.